Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another continuing ed check-in. Today is going to be super fun. We're going to hear some updates from Sania, and then we're going to talk a little more about the friend zone, but specifically about the friend zone and not just if a guy and a girl can just be friends. And so we'll kick it off. Sania, you mentioned during the last episode that you had another date, and I guess I just want to know why you're calling it dates now. Because when you first started talking about this guy, it was just hanging out.
Right. I think I'd be calling them dates now because he made his intentions very clear. So, like, I think before it was just hanging out because, I didn't know if he liked me. I wasn't, I was interested, obviously, but I didn't know if I liked him like that. But I think because his intentions are now very clear and he's, like, expressed that he likes me, I feel like, and he knows that I like him. So now it's officially, like, dates. And also, not that I'm a money-minded person, but he pays for everything now. Whereas before, we would either split or like we would take turns or whatever it was. But now I don't even have to touch my wallet or my card or anything like that. So I feel like that also tells me that these are dates and not just friends hanging out.
Mm-hmm. When did he make his intentions clear? I missed this part of the story completely.
I guess he just made his intentions clear because when I came, well, obviously, like I said, when I was away, there was those emails, blah, 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 which was all just cute and fun. And when we FaceTime once when I was away, it was, again, just friendly. I didn't think anything much of it. But I think when I came back and he was like, I don't know, I think it was like the wording that he used over text. And he was like, oh, would you like to I can't remember the words. I have to look it up. But he said something about oh, do you want to cook together? And do you want to have a date on Sunday? Something like that. So I think maybe he used the word date. And then even then when we were picking up groceries and stuff, I was like, maybe it's still hanging out. But again, he paid for everything. And yeah, that just showed me his intentions.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so you also mentioned last time you're not really sure how you feel about him. Now that you kind of have his attention, you might not like him that much. And so how did it go last week when you did see him?
Okay, so I feel like that specifically, what you talked about is kind of like a defense mechanism that if you like somebody but you're not sure how it's going to go with them, I don't want to put my heart out there and get my hopes up and then possibly get hurt. So it's like a defensive practice, I guess. It's just easier to just be I'm not interested anymore. Because now that it is a real possibility and there's real potential, I could just be you know what, I'm actually not interested. But I think the reason that I'm doing that is because, like we talked about before, he had a really serious relationship. And I didn't really know all the details about why it ended and stuff like that. So when we went out last week, that was my main intent, to find out everything about that.
Yeah.
And we went, he picked a really nice place for dinner because and all of that was good, but then we didn't really talk about stuff because we didn't want to ruin the vibe at dinner. So we waited until after dinner when he dropped me off. He came upstairs to my apartment and we started talking, and the reason that his last relationship ended was because he cheated, which sounds really triggering, and it's oh, red flag, run away.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. First of all, okay, there's a couple of things about his cheating. It wasn't anything physical.
Okay.
He was to his girlfriend, and they'd always been really long distance, and there were going to be long distance more in the future because of her profession, and so they were just used to being apart. And I don't know if based on his friend group and stuff like that, because I think that really influences the guy. He was used to a style of life of reaching out to girls and getting attention and blah, 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 blah. So he was dating this girl and they were in a very serious, committed relationship. But he wasn't feeling that validation, I think. And because he knew she was going to be away again, so he downloaded some dating apps and he did some texting, I want to add. I know. And then he proceeded to get even more serious with the girl that he was dating. Mm-hmm. And after they took that next step of even more seriousness, he told her about what he had done. Mm-hmm. And that's what caused their relationship to end. And And, you know, she was like, you know what, like, there's absolutely no way, like, you know, for us to ever come back together after this. Like, yeah, so that's why his relationship ended.
Damn, that sucks. Let me give the audience just a little bit of context. How did this all come about? And how did you go into this date with that strategy?
Mm.
But Sania and I were talking last week, and I have a friend, and he told me that a good way to have a gauge on when someone gets over an old relationship is to like take half of the amount of time the relationship lasted, and then that's about the amount of time someone usually needs to get over someone. And so when we were thinking about this guy in particular, it hasn't been half the time of their whole relationship. And so we were thinking, okay, are there other ways to figure out if he's really over her or not? And like, is he just trying to like use you, or is he actually like emotionally available? And then I think the other part is that's just a rule of thumb, taking half the amount of time of the relationship. But I think when we were talking last week, it also depends on why the relationship ended. And so that's why when you were going into this date last week, you wanted to figure out
the reason why it ended.
Yeah. And so I'm glad you figured that out. Now that all of that happened, you like figured that part out. How do you feel? Do you...
I think definitely right after the date, I was like I was really confused. I was really shocked. On one hand, it's really nice that he's being very open and honest, because he didn't need to tell me that. Like, there's no chance I would ever talk to that other girl. Like, he could have made up some story, or he could have, you know, he didn't need to tell me the details of, like, you know, the intent or the extent to which he cheated. He could have just said, oh, I just texted a few people. He didn't need to tell me all, like, the gory details, I guess. So, you know, so I'm kind of grateful that he's being so honest. And, you know, he's kind of in a boat where he doesn't know if it's going to happen again. Because that was another thing I asked. I was like, I don't want to get into something and, like, you know, what if, like, what's to stop you from doing this again? And he doesn't know. You know, so this is also like a trial for him. And I jokingly told him, because I don't really want to be anyone's test dummy. So I told him, maybe go date somebody else and come back to me when you've sorted out all your but he responded really politely to that. He said, like, he didn't want to, like, do that because he's scared if he, like, goes and starts to talk to somebody else that I'm going to get scooped up. And so he's really afraid of that. And that's why he's, like, acting on his feelings right now. And I asked my mom for advice on this. I asked a bunch of people for advice. I think after our date, I was very certain that, like, you know, I don't think I want to get involved with him. But I feel like now it's kind of a little bit more up in the air. I'm still figuring it out.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. And I have more questions for you, but I think we'll keep those on the side for now. And this is a good update. And yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. So after our last episode, I had like a huge lingering question. And so we were talking about, if you spend enough time with a friend,
right,
and you're like seeing them day and night, you can catch feelings. And it happens a lot. But then sometimes it doesn't happen that way. I feel like there are situations where you can spend a ton of time with someone, but then one person just won't catch feelings because they put the other person in the friend zone already. And so I'm wondering, what should you do in that situation? And is that always the case? Is it always one or the other?
I feel like it's going to be another one of those, like, messy answers again. I don't think it's very clear cut. I do think, you know, oftentimes, at least I've found, you know, a guy will catch feelings and the girl has already put him in that box of friend zone. So she's kind of like, you know, not considering him. Like last week we talked about, oh, if I'm talking to my guy friend about other guys that I'm trying to romantically pursue, that should be a sign for him that, you know, he's in the friend zone, he's not coming out of there. But then I think, even to speak on the girl's perspective, there is times where, like, you know, someone could be in the friend zone, but they're just so close to you, and like, they're your emotional support system, and like, so sometimes you do get those thoughts about them. So I don't think it's like a clear cut, you're in this box. I think it could be like, oh, I'm getting thoughts about you, more than friends, but it's about, am I going to pursue those thoughts or just like brush them off?
Yeah, I feel you. But I think there's also more going on. So you've mentioned, like, you have this friend. He's like, you guys started off as friends, but he had feelings for you.
He developed feelings.
Okay.
We were just friends in the beginning. He talked to me about his like, his dates from apps. I talked to him about, love life stuff, but we were both just friends.
Okay, so he developed feelings for you, and then you didn't have feelings for him. But also, like, when I've talked about this with you for my own like situation, you've mentioned how a lot of times if one person has a feeling for someone else, there's like this kind of karma effect, and that other person will
mirror those feelings, kind of, to some extent.
Yeah, and maybe they don't feel those feelings as strongly, but they're able to like recognize what's going on.
Yeah.
And then they'll, like, if you like someone, that other person
must have interest in you also.
Yeah, at some point.
Right.
In some way.
And I truly, I feel like that became clear to me as I became like older and older. Because, when you're like a young kid and you have a crush on someone, and you're just like, you don't think about like, why do I have a crush on this person, But as I kept getting older, I just kept realizing like a trend that really, like, if you like somebody, like, there is something that makes you think that they're a feasible option to even pursue. And that's because of like signs that they're giving you or vibes that they're giving you. And like you said, they don't have to be like matching your level, Like if you're ready to make them your wife, maybe they just want to see how you'd be as a boyfriend. Maybe they're not at the same level, but for sure there has to be interest from both parties for one person to even experience feelings that are strong enough to want to pursue anything.
I get that. I think that more happens on the girl side.
Okay.
So the guy likes the girl first, and then the girl like starts to consider it, even though like it might not ever turn into something. But I think there's also a big difference between how guys and girls approach this kind of situation. I think guys are more physical, less emotional.
Right.
But guys get attached very easily. And so if I like see a girl that I'm attracted to, I think a lot of times I'll get attached in kind of a physical way.
Right.
And I think in that case, like, I think guys fall into two categories. They're either like really dumb and they don't know what's going on. So if a girl likes them first, they might not catch on.
Okay, yeah.
And then the other case is the guy likes a girl first, and then like we'll try to do something. And whereas on the girl side, I feel like a girl, if a guy is interested in them first, they will notice that something's going on,
right,
and kind of like react to it,
right.
But then if the girl is interested first, it will take them a little longer to get attached. I don't think the girl.
Yeah, it's like a slower build.
Yeah,
kind of, because it's like emotional, like you said, very emotional. It's like the more that the guy does, and I don't mean like buying you flowers and gifts, but like just the more that he's there for her, and he's like reliable, and he's like a safe person to talk to, and blah blah blah. So like that stuff just builds and builds and builds until at one point, and like you already know that this person has feelings for you, so you can't help but like reciprocate them. But it's just about if you've already put that person in that friend zone box, like, are you gonna act on them or not?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's probably more likely for a woman to act on it. I think as a guy, if they don't have feelings for you initially, it's much harder for them to
Mm-hmm.
get into that emotional side.
Right. It takes a lot longer. I do agree.
Yeah. If they're not interested at first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So then I guess a big question for me then is, if you're interested in someone, let's say you just meet them,
Right.
and you're interested because you like their personality,
Mm-hmm.
you like the way they look,
Mhm.
is it a good idea to just try to become friends with them right out the gate?
Okay. I think absolutely not. I
Mm.
hate to say it. I think if you develop feelings for someone or you become interested in the first place because you already have a friendship background, maybe you studied together in school, that's okay because that's what caused you to even consider them as an option. But I think, like, let's say you're meeting somebody brand new and, you know, right off the bat, you're like interested, you're like curious about this possible option. I think starting off with trying to be friends just makes things really complicated because when you're under the title or like the umbrella of friends, the expectations are so different. You know, like the way you communicate, the things that you share are completely different. Like, even if we talk about me and this guy from like last week, like, since we were just hanging out as friends in the beginning, I had no idea the seriousness of his past relationship and like the ways, because I didn't have privilege to that information because we were just friends, you know?
Yeah.
But starting off as like, you know, as like a romantic kind of interest is very different. It's like a different pace.
Mm-hmm.
And it, you know, it also gets rid of all that confusion of like, oh, like, is he even interested in, like, you know, it's like, okay, we both are interested and we're gonna try to go on a date. We're gonna try to do this. We're gonna try to do that.
Yeah.
What do you think? Friends first?
I actually totally agree with you.
Yeah?
Because in the past, I've tried to be friends first.
Okay.
But I think it makes things way too complicated because you're always like thinking, am I reading the signs correctly?
Yeah.
And it's never clear.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually really agree with you. I do think this is a hot take for both of us,
Mm-hmm.
but I think if you like someone right off the bat,
Yeah.
you shouldn't like just start texting them.
Mm-hmm.
You should like, there should be some space and you should try to get to know them like in a very, like kind of from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's enough for you to like make a move on, to just be clear
Right.
and ask them out.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about a time where you tried to be friends first? I don't think I know about this.
Yeah, definitely. And I need to figure out how much I want to say, but I think what I'll say on that is I met someone and I've always been very, very picky about like who I'm interested in.
Mhm.
And so it's pretty hard to get my attention and keep it.
Okay.
And so there was this one girl who I think right off the bat checked off a lot of boxes.
Wait, can you tell me who this is?
Yeah. But I'll have to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. You won't hear this part, but this is.
Okay.
And so, and I think one thing that I do want you guys to keep in mind is, for me, initially, I thought she checked off all the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But now looking back, she didn't. And so you should never, when you first meet someone, you should never think that they check off all the boxes because you barely know them and they're just showing you the best side of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was the first trap I fell into.
Okay.
But I think based on her personality, her experiences, and like just she was really attractive as a person, I was interested. And the reason why I was like, let me be friends with her first was because I think in that moment she wasn't emotionally available.
Okay.
And so to kind of counter that, I'm like, let's be friends first. And then when you become emotionally available,
Mm-hmm.
then there's already some kind of foundation.
Okay.
And I think for everyone, you want your romantic partner to also be your friend.
Right.
And you want to have that kind of like
Like a solid foundation, like
Yeah.
a good connection.
A friendship.
Right. But I don't think you want the opposite. You wouldn't want your friend to be a romantic partner.
Right.
So I think, okay. So you started with friendship
Yeah.
because there wasn't that emotional availability.
Right.
And to be honest, here I am. We're both saying that we think you shouldn't be friends with that person first. But even the guy I went out with last week, like, he also wasn't emotionally available, and it was, obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But I also started with just friends. But I think my reasoning was maybe a little bit different than yours. I think mine was, I was hoping that I could almost change his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And like, maybe he's not feeling ready for something, but, I was thinking as his friend, we could hang out and I could see if he's even, a potential match.
Yeah.
And if he was, then, maybe we could start something.
Yeah.
And maybe I could convince him that he's ready.
Mm-hmm.
I think girls fall into that trap of like, oh, I could change him. Like, I could convince him.
Yeah.
I can make him ready. But yours was just to be there to build a foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I think looking back, I don't think what I did was wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't think that was the wrong thing to do. Mm-hmm. But I think it put me into a headspace where I was acting as a friend, but I wanted something more. And I think that was bad.
Right.
And I think when you're in the headspace where you want something more, mm-hmm. you have rose-tinted glasses and mm-hmm. you don't see things clear anymore.
Right.
And so what started happening was I started to take every little signal as, oh, she might be interested too. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I was being ignorant or just seeing things one-sided, mm-hmm. but at some point I thought there was a good chance that she also thought more of me than just a friend.
Right. And she must have. Like we said, girl, as you build that emotional, it spikes, but it's just about, is she willing to act on it? The spikes of oh, I do like him. Oh, but then,
I'm kind of doubtful of that because when I look back on everything that has happened, mm-hmm. I do think that the whole time she only viewed me as her friend. Okay. And I think this is applicable for all the guys out there. I mm-hmm. think this happens a lot where you just start reading signs wrong, mm-hmm. and the whole time she's still considering you as a friend. Maybe she's had the thought, maybe I could be interested, but if she's never taken you out of that friend zone box, mm-hmm. I don't think she's ever seriously considered you.
True. I 100% think she must have been like, oh, Ethan has these XYZ qualities that I really like, and in someone I'm romantically interested in, I'd love to see those qualities. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it would necessarily mean I love these qualities in Ethan, let me consider him.
Right.
I think that's the spikes, if any, that I'm talking about. And I think you touched on a really good point that it's really, really important for guys, girls, everybody to learn, that, if you're in a relationship, in a friendship and whatever, but your intentions are different, you're in a really, really, really tough spot. You're literally setting yourself up to get heartbroken or to be, really disappointed. And I know as hard as it is to communicate when you like somebody or when you have, different intentions, I think it's best to just say it. And if the other person doesn't reciprocate, at least get out of there. Yeah. As opposed to staying, like you said, those rose-tinted glasses and you're over there overthinking so many little things as signs and I'm glad you're sharing the guy's perspective in this because it's really opening my eyes because something similar happened to me with my guy friend. And, and the girl's perspective is just, I felt like a horrible person at the end because I was like, oh my God, have I been giving him all these signs? But really it's he shouldn't, the guy shouldn't be in that position to begin with. Right. If you like somebody, just say it, have a clear adult conversation about it and, decide if you can't be friends, you can't be friends. It is what it is.
Yeah. And there's two things going on. We touched on this just a little bit last time, but the first thing is if you catch feelings mm-hmm. and you're trying to balance between those two things, being friends, but also wanting something more, you're playing yourself because you're not seeing clearly. And then also, if you're not making your intentions clear, you're going to mess up one of those things.
Yeah. Or both. You can end up with losing a friend and also not getting that romantic, like, that person will just be cut out of your life. Like, there's been so many times where, like, you were so close to somebody and then this kind of situation happens and you're blocked, like, you can't even wish that person a happy birthday anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's really messy and, like, avoid, I feel like, at all costs.
Yeah.
I feel like you should honor your feelings. If you're if you think your feelings for that person are true, you should honor your feelings and just say it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, it's saving you time and heartache. And, which is, time is important.
And the other thing that's going on is you're playing the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Sania, the other person at the end of the day, like one of the big things that can happen is they feel like a horrible person because they start questioning the whole friendship. Were we really friends?
Yeah.
Was I sending you bad signals?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want that for the other person either.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole time they're just trying to be a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
And you're forcing them into a situation where the lines become very blurry.
Yeah.
And so it's not good all around.
I agree completely.
Yeah. And so we're going to start to wrap up. We're going to get into our ending segment for today, which is called What Would ChatGPT Do? And so Sania and I came up with this idea because we thought it would be really funny to see what kind of dating advice you could ask AI. And then we're going to read through whatever ChatGPT says and then see if we agree based on our own experiences. And so the question that we've asked ChatGPT today is, how do you tell if a girl likes you? And so we're going to read what it says. It gives us a bunch of signals. And so we're not going to read like all the beginning stuff. We're scrolling through it, and so you can see if you want. But the first one is body language. So ChatGPT says, pay attention to her body language. If she leans in when talking to you, maintains eye contact, and mirrors your movements, these can be positive signs.
100%, I agree. I feel like if you're interested, like you are trying to find that other person's eyes. Yeah. You're leaning in more. You're sitting maybe a little bit closer. There'll be playful touches of like the shoulder, the elbow, like very safe. But I think I completely agree with this one.
I completely disagree with this one.
Really?
Yeah. And from a guy's perspective, so the reason why we started this podcast in the first place was because there's a lot of relationship podcasts out, but I think they give not solid advice. They're like focusing on the art of pickup. They're focusing on a lot of psychological and physical signs that I don't think always work. And I think this is one of them because I agree, these can be positive signs, but I totally think these are things that friends will do also. And so
I don't know about the deep eye contact. I don't think I've ever looked in your eyes deeply when we talk.
What? I think when you have any serious conversation, it doesn't matter like who it's with, fair. You're having eye contact.
What about a non-serious conversation? Like a conversation about, should we get this cheese for the pizza or this cheese? And if you're making that deep eye contact, like that is something a little bit more, you're trying to invoke feeling in the other person.
I get that, but I don't think that's enough to go off of.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's not, you can't just have these body language signs, as ChatGPT says, and say, oh yeah, she likes me, it's in the bag, let me ask her out tomorrow.
Yeah. I think the reason why I'm saying this is not true is not because these are not good signs, but because I could totally see in a platonic friendship both the guy and the girl doing this. Okay. Like, for example, I try to make a lot of eye contact whenever I talk to anyone who's my friend. Okay. But I think a lot of times when I'm nervous
Mm-hmm.
and I'm with someone that I like, I'm
Okay.
making less eye contact.
Okay, this is true too.
You know, so
Yeah,
I
you're
think this
right.
is horrible.
You're right. Now that you said that, I was like, wait, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you are shy,
Yeah.
you're like avoiding their eyes. You're like a little bit more shifty and like more, your body language is like more closed off because
Mhm.
you're just shy.
Hmm.
Okay, fair enough, Ethan. I can give you that one.
And I think a lot of like dating, I don't know what to call them. People who give dating advice and other podcasts will say, oh, see if they make like physical contact, if they touch your shoulder, if they touch like your hand,
Mhm.
or if they make eye contact,
Mhm.
if they're playing with their hair or like
Oh, no.
opening up their body
Yeah,
and
like
showing that they're more
physically, yeah.
open. But I think that's not like good enough.
Yes, I agree. It's not enough for
No.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Okay, so the next one is engagement. If she actively engages in conversations with you, asks questions about your life, and shows genuine interest, it could indicate that she likes you.
This one's a clear disagree. Like, how are you going to be friends with someone if you don't ask about their life?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. In this situation, the converse is definitely false.
Mhm.
Because if you're having conversations with someone that you like and they don't remember details that you've shared with them,
Uh-huh.
they don't ask questions about your life,
Mhm.
don't even like try to pursue them. I think
Yeah.
if they're not doing these things, it definitely means they're not interested.
Mhm.
But if they are doing these things, it doesn't mean anything.
That's a good way to put it.
Cool. Okay, the next one, initiating contact. If she initiates contact, such as texting, calling, or finding reasons to be around you, it may suggest she has an interest.
I'm bored a lot. I like to text my friends to hang out. I don't think anyone should take it romantically. I feel like this happened with.
Yeah.
But it's just out of friendship. I like to do stuff with my friends. I like to spend time and be around my friends. That's why they're my friends. It does not mean
Yeah.
that I like you.
So as a guy, I think that really hurts to hear that from you. And it's just so hard because I feel like there's so few signals to work with.
Right.
So in our age where you're texting people, FaceTiming people constantly,
Right.
you're trying to like get a lot of information based on how someone texts you and
Okay.
interacts with you
Mhm.
when you're not face to face. And so I used to think if she initiates texting or if she reciprocates my energy when we're talking online, that's a really good sign.
Mhm.
But I guess it's not.
I just feel like it could also be very easily a sign for somebody who's in the friend zone, you know, like I'm just being friendly.
Does it matter what kind of conversations you're having?
100%.
Okay, so what are like good conversations that you could have over text that maybe shows that you're interested? And then what are bad ones that are more neutral?
I think if you're just talking about like, you know, really like basic stuff, if your plans that you're making are, you know, to go play tennis together, to do this and that, like very, you know, friendly plans, like those are innocent friendship.
Yeah.
I think if you're texting about, you know, if something serious is going on with your family, like, again, this is like also confusing because you could just be really, really close friends.
Mhm.
And so you're talking about that deeper stuff.
Yeah.
But or if you're texting the other person, like, you know, I'm pretty sad right now. Like, do you mind if you come over? Like, those I think would be more so signs. To some extent. Again, I've also texted my friends in times of emotional need. So it's hard.
Yeah. What if they're texting you things that you know they're not texting anyone else? So they're telling you something that happened to them during their day that is really important to them, but it's not like something that they're going to post on social media or something.
Right. Okay.
Like maybe they're like, oh, I just passed this big test that I took, or I just bought this painting at a flea market that is like super, super cool.
Right. Okay. I think this kind of goes back to, I think if I'm texting my friend, I will just talk about myself because he's my friend. I'm telling him about my day, even though it doesn't go on social media.
Mhm.
But I think if there's somebody that you like, I'll be asking him questions about his day.
Mhm.
I'll ask little details. I'll be like, oh, you had that meeting you were preparing for all day. Like, how did that go? Like, how was your morning BART ride to the office? Like, so it's like, sure, I could be sharing private stuff with you, but that, I would share it with my girlfriends. I would share it with my guy friends.
Yeah.
But how much of your little details am I asking about?
Yeah. I love that. I think I guess our final answer on that is you should be seeing how willing they are to continuing the conversation.
Yeah.
Are they actively trying to talk more with you, or are they trying to slow their conversation down, just talking about themselves?
Right.
That's a conversation that's more dead-ended.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, the next one is laughs and smiles. A person who likes you is likely to laugh at your jokes, even if they're not that funny, and smile frequently in your presence.
I don't even think we need to.
Yeah.
I think some people are just giggly.
Exactly.
It's just a personality thing.
Yeah.
Like, I could laugh in a room by myself, I think.
And last podcast, we were talking about the types of people who are just friendly with everyone.
Yeah.
And they're going to be laughing and smiling at everyone.
Because they're just social. Like, they like to make people around them feel good. Like, it doesn't mean you're special and we love you.
Yeah. That's more a sign that they're, like, being extroverted in the moment than any interest.
100%.
Okay. Okay, there's 3 more. Physical touch. Personal touch, my bad. Physical touch, such as light touch on the arm or shoulder, can be a sign of romantic interest. I'm just going to say this is BS because I'm pretty sure you've touched me on the shoulder. And that, like, we're just, we're business partners, we're co-hosts. It doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. I think we talked about the touch on the arm or the shoulder. I think I was saying something different earlier.
Yeah.
And then now I feel like, I get it. I think I would, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. I do think when this comes into play is if you're on a date with someone. Right. This is a good way to, like, get the person more comfortable with you, open 100%. Them up. Yeah. And so
I think it's not a good sign. It's not a sign that you should look out for if you're like, oh, like, does she like me? Does she not? Like, oh, she just touched my shoulder. Like, she's in love. No. Yeah. But if you're on a date and you both know that it's a date and, she touches your shoulder, that speaks volumes for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Next one, teasing or flirting. Playful teasing or flirting is often a way for someone to express their feelings.
Disagree. I think it goes back to that flirty personality. Some people are just extroverts. They like to ask questions. A little bit could be teasing, like siblings when you're little. Like, it doesn't have to mean in a romantic sense.
Really?
Behavior. Yeah.
Okay, so I think I kind of disagree on this one. And honestly, we've been disagreeing a lot with ChatGPT. And this is not me, like, just trying to give ChatGPT some credit. But I feel like the key to differentiate when someone is just being friendly or is actually interested is if what they're saying is actual flirting or not. Mm-hmm. And I do think that if someone is teasing you and it's to a point where they're making fun of you but nothing serious, I do think that there's something. I'm not going to just make fun of someone.
But okay, so this past weekend I was at my roommate's company office party. We went out with this like 80, 90-year-old man, and we were teasing him, but in a way for him to feel comfortable in his environment, in a way for him to feel, included, and like for him to feel young again, and like he's part of the crowd. Yeah. So it's more so to make him feel comfortable in his space as opposed to flirting with him.
Can you give me an example of something that you said that's teasing? But
okay, so when we were, let me think. Oh, okay. Actually, he started it, but we continued it. So we were out, and he kept talking about how, like, the year prior's Christmas party, and about, he kept being like, oh, but I was so innocent. Like, you girls made me do this and this and that. And it was just, like, funny. We were like, no, bro, you wanted to do that stuff yourself. Like, you forced it to happen. And, like, we were just blaming each other for, like, how the night got crazy and, like, who was at fault. That was, like, a little bit of teasing. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, it's something like sorry, that's the only example I can think of off the top of my head. But But yeah, it was completely just to make him feel, because obviously he's a lot older than everybody else in the group that happened to be going out.
Yeah.
So just to make him feel welcome and included.
Yeah, I get that. But that's like based on circumstances.
Right.
With the circumstances, like it's clear that's not flirting or like teasing flirting.
I don't know.
But
maybe he went home and he thinks we love him.
Would you ever tell your friend something like that? Or make jokes like that to just a platonic friend?
Again, if it is just to make them feel more comfortable and at ease, like, yeah.
Dang. Okay. And when it comes to flirting, I feel like there is like a tier of flirting where it becomes very clear. And so if I tell someone, and I tell a girl, I've noticed that you dress really well. And I think that like this is like you have a gift. I'm not just going to I don't think I'm just going to tell a friend that.
What? I feel like I've gotten that compliment from lots of friends, from just friends. They're like, oh, you have a good sense of style.
Yeah.
But they'll follow it up with, like I think this is number 7, the compliments thing. Like, they'll say you have a good sense of style, but it'll be followed up with, oh, you should take me shopping and like fix my style. That's a friend who made that comment. But then if they say, oh, you have a good sense of style, like I like being out in public with you, it makes me feel proud to be with you. That's a flirty compliment.
Got it. Okay, that's a good differentiation, I think. I think I was trying to figure out how do you like tell the difference. Okay, and then the last one, compliments. Regular compliments about your appearance, personality, or achievements can be an indication of interest. I don't think this is true.
Yeah, not at all. This is like the thing we were just saying about complimenting your dressing sense. Like, you could take it anyway.
But, okay. ChatGPT, you need to step your game up. We know we're using an older version, and so we know that you're not fully up to date, but we're pretty disappointed in you. And hopefully when we do this segment next time, ChatGPT will do a better job. Okay, and so we'll wrap up here for today. Do we want to give a spoiler for the next episode? Or are we going to keep them on their toes?
I feel like let's keep people on their toes.
Okay. We promise that it's going to be a very juicy topic. We're going to talk about it today, but we didn't have enough time. And I think this is going to expose a lot of guys out there. But it's really important because you need to learn this.
100%.
Okay. All right. So have a good one. Thanks for joining us today. And
we hope you learned something.
Yeah.